Sports Professor Rick Horrow. This is the Facebook Live that I've been telling you about, at least for 10, 15 minutes. This is a big deal. This is the 100th anniversary of the NHL. It's the 100 greatest players, the NHL, at their Microsoft Theater event on Friday night. The All-Star Skills Competition. This is the third All-Star game held in LA. Promise it's the best because it celebrates something, frankly, that a lot of leagues really don't do. And we're using the best first. Gary Bettman and the NHL guys may not think so, but Luke Robitaille, who is the president of business operations for the LA Kings, and maybe even more important, he appeared in episode 4 of Bones for Fox.
That's
and
right.
Maybe even more important than that, he's one of the 100 best, most revered, most known, most important players in the NHL, based on the Microsoft Theater event of last Friday night. Long-winded intro. How you doing, man?
That was a big intro.
Yeah, big intro.
The Bones episode
was really good. Well, you're proud of that. You look at the Wikipedia page, and that's there somewhere.
That's there on top. It's
with a lot of the other movies.
Sad and funny.
Sad but funny. So, obviously, everybody asks you this. What does it mean to be picked as one of the 100?
It's a little bit. It's humbling. It's like I was just a kid, loved the game, was playing the game. Used to idolize guys like Gretzky and the Montreal Canadiens. I grew up in Montreal, and the next thing you know, we were like, the coolest thing about the event was being in the green room with everyone.
Yeah.
Where you look around, and you see Bobby Orr, Dennis Potvin, and all that. So that was really neat. It's humbling. It's one of those like I can't believe I'm part of that group.
Well, and the NHL did it smart, and Gary will talk about it a little later. That nobody got ranked, right?
Yeah, no, I think no one got ranked, and I think it's great. I mean, it was the right way to do it, and it keeps everyone talking, which makes it fun, I guess.
Yeah, it does. Makes it fun after the event. Certainly, everybody was talking about it, and the NHL does it better than most, better than everybody. Your role as the kind of face of and organizer of, as president of business operations, the King, this All-Star game. How much extra work?
It's been a lot of work. Very taxing on all of our staff, but it's because we care. At the same time, it was fun, and we wanted the All-Star game. Gary kind of gave it to us, and we took it very seriously. We want to make sure every fan that was coming was going to have the best time, and so far it's been a big success. We're looking forward to finishing off with a big bang today, but it's been great.
I'll ask everybody this, see what your opinion is. The All-Star bump means ticket price adjustments next year, suite sales. How important is the All-Star bump to the business, or is the most important issue how you perform on the ice?
There's not really an All-Star bump where you're raising ticket price because of that. It's more of a thank you to your fans.
Yeah.
And it's something that if you're a season seat holder, you are allowed to get your own seats for the All-Star game, which is a big perk. And they had to buy it because the gate's not ours. But at the same time, it's a great thing. And if you're a Kings fan and you host the All-Star game, you have as much pride as the player playing, because there's something very special about it. And for us, it's not about giving us an opportunity to raise what we're doing. Like we run our business, we have a plan, and we stick to the plan no matter what. We just thought adding the All-Star game was a big perk for our season seat holder.
No disrespect, because you can kill me, but this is factual more than anything else. You spend a year as the president of the Omaha Lancers.
That's right.
And then, before that, you were one of the best players on the ice, certainly one of the top 2 in the history of the Kings. What qualified you to come into the president of business operations for the Kings?
What qualified me, I think, at first was my passion for wanting to change the culture of our organization. It was to no one's fault that AEG was becoming so big. We had 25,000 employees, 60 different businesses, and we needed someone to come in to work every day and pay attention to the LA Kings. Because if you're a season seat holder, you only want someone to pay attention to your team. You don't really care that AEG's got the Galaxy and they signed David Beckham and they own real estate. You're like, what are you doing for me if I'm spending $10,000 a year on my season seats? So that was my role, to come in, change the culture, and to change our organization. And credit to Dan Beckerman and Mr. Andrews, they let us run with it, and we kind of took a bunch of people that were great workers and became a Kings staff, and we've doubled our revenue since.
Well, good for you, doubling revenue since, and good for your stability, because I'm sure that comes up from time to time in contract negotiations for you, pal. But the bottom line also, this is a business show for business people, and I'm sure a lot of people want to know how a guy who became, and I got your numbers, 1,300 points and 600 goals and 8 All-Stars, what the hardest part of a transition was to be director of business operations of a portion of a giant company.
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson you got to learn is, first of all, you got to be a lot more patient when you get on the business side, because when you're a hockey player, you're an athlete or a coach, if you have a bad game and you make a mistake, the very next day you have a practice and another game.
Yeah.
So you can fix that. If you win the next game, everything's good. If you make a mistake in business, it might take you 6 months, a year to fix it. So you gotta, the preparation's the same. The idea of having a team spirit and bringing the office where the person selling the tickets or your VP of marketing, they all have a role for your organization to be great. It goes the same when you play on a team where the fourth line, if you want to win a championship, if your fourth line is the best fourth line, you're going to win a lot of championship, and they're just as important as the first line. So that's kind of the mentality we have in our organization. But definitely the biggest lesson is you got to be a lot more patient when you're on the business side.
And I bet you're more patient now than you were May 25 of 07. It's been almost 10 years, right, since you've been in this position?
Yeah, 10
What's
years.
the biggest thing you've learned since you started?
That if you see it and you believe it, you can pretty much do anything you want. Like people have said that for years that we weren't a real good hockey market and so forth, and we refused. We just acted like where we belong here, and we've acted as an organization like we take a lot of pride in our fans and what we do, and hockey is booming in California, so it's pretty special. We have 5 teams from the AHL here. We started our own division 3 years ago. No one thought it'd be possible to do. We're selling out those arenas everywhere, so it's if you see it, you believe it, you have a plan, you can accomplish a lot.
I guess that was leading into my next question, which was, what are the unique challenges of running a Sunbelt franchise?
I think LA's it's got its own animal. I don't believe this is not a great football town. We lost 2 teams.
Yeah.
So no one will tell me it's a great football town.
By the way, you're getting them back, and guess what? They're not going to be that good when they get here. By the
exactly.
way.
So it still remains to be seen. What this city is about competing, and you're competing with everyone. And I think if you do your business well and you pay attention to what you do, you don't have to compete with the Lakers or Clippers. We're good at what we do. We stick to what we're good at, and we believe in what we do. And the most important that our fans want to know is, are we willing to do whatever it takes to win? Now, that doesn't mean you're going to win every year, but if they know that, they're going to follow. And that's why we've been selling out now for over 5 years.
Fight for LA relevance. Let's talk about that. So secretly, because we're only with 3-4 million people around here, so this secret's safe for us. You're sitting there and you realize that the Lakers, not a good example because they're owned by the same company, but Clippers losing another game, Rams get shut out. You're saying, boy, that's great for us? Or is it like we have enough people in 13 million person market where every team being successful helps everybody else?
I think the big competition is probably more in sponsorship, because we're all fighting a little bit for the same dollars. As far as our fans, we know there's 2.5 million hockey fans in California. Everything we're doing, like an all-star game or anything else, we're trying to grow that to 3 to 3.5 to 4 million and to 5 and 6. And that's our next goal for us, is to get sticks in kids' hands that maybe have never played hockey, have never been around.
What about in the inner city? Is that a hard thing to do?
Actually, no. Right now, we just made a deal with YMCA.
Awesome.
We're going to be an all YMCA. We're going to distribute 25,000 sticks, and we're going to go and teach those kids to play the game. And we believe the more you play, the more you get involved. But we're sticking to what we're good at. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel and so forth. And you know what? Our fans believe in what we're doing, and that's why they're supporting us.
Do you like what's happening with Gary Bettman's on later? So be careful. Do you like everything the NHL is doing?
Yeah, because for the last 7-8 years, we're promoting big events. Finally, we're finally doing big events. Whether it's the outdoor game, it is just a game, but they're big events. And when you do an outdoor game, it creates a buzz for sure in the market. But at the end of the day, when you're outdoor, there's more people watching those games than if they were just playing in their arena that night. That's the bottom line. I love they're working hard on promoting the Stanley Cup Finals, the playoffs, and the 3-on-3 is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, whether you're not a hockey fan or whatever, if you could see a 3-on-3 in overtime, there's nothing like it in sports. So I love what they're doing, and I know we have a big plan now to go to Europe and to keep pushing the game.
And AEG, great company to work with. Mr. Roth, one of the best PR people in the modern era.
There's exception. There's exception. It's a great company, but there's definitely exception. You just pointed one.
We have Beckerman, we have Seidman, we have a whole bunch of people who are going to be singing the praises of AEG. Yeah. But how does it feel to have the kind of leverage and economic strength of a company like that behind you?
It's incredible. We can accomplish things that most organizations can't. Like, give you an example. Last night we wanted to do this event for the league where they host all their partners and everything, and Dan Beckerman worked with us and got us Snoop Dogg and Blink 182, you know, and that was to the strength of AEG that we're able to pull that off. And the fact of the matter is that we own everything around here is the reason we're able to host the All-Star Game, even though we've had success and so forth, is when we're able to pitch to Microsoft Theater and you could do events everywhere and everybody's walking around. People are loving this weekend because they don't have to go anywhere. They're all here and they're staying here the whole weekend.
Should the NHL go to Korea for the 18 Olympics?
It's a battle that everybody's talking about. It's a tough one. I think Gary's doing a good job on figuring out what's best for the league. It's, last time we were in the Olympics, the last one, if it would have been a finals of U.S. versus Canada, I figured out there was 13 players that were from California, San Jose, the Kings. It would have been that finals. It wasn't. But the game was at 4 a.m. It would have been at 4 a.m. So I'm not sure it's good. So I think there's a lot of things that Gary's trying to figure out time-wise and everything to really make sense, because this you send almost $2 billion worth of salaries when you send those guys over there. So it's a big commitment and a big risk for us.
Yeah, time issues are really significant. So, test for you. Who won the men's championship of the Australian Open last night? Do you know?
I have no idea. I just do hockey. I don't do any other sports.
That's really interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to blow this one in case you're watching it right now. Roger Federer won 6-3 in the fifth. But that's okay. That's not relevant to him because clearly he's only a hockey guy.
Doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care. I'll watch tennis once in a while, but that's it.
He's clearly only a hockey guy. Here's the final question for this man, one of the 100 greatest players in NHL history. How frustrating was it for you yesterday to see how slow the celebrity game was skating-wise? I mean, that was like a 33 RPM in the old records, right?
It's not frustrating because my whole career they said I was too slow, so everybody was back at my speed yesterday. That was good.
And did you guys give Justin Bieber, by the way, was part of the celebrity deal?
Yeah.
Did you let him do that breakaway on the last goal intentionally?
No, actually, Scott Niedermayer was trying to catch him, and there was no goalie, so he was really trying to catch him. He's actually a good little player. He played pretty well. He had some good scoring chance. Guys had a great time, and we raised some good money for that game. It was a lot of fun.
I heard there were a lot of players in that game that wanted to reinstitute the checking rule just for one shot at him.
There was a little bit of hooking and a little bit of whacking for him just to test him a little bit.
I will tell you that the NHL and the Kings are in good shape having you involved, man. I really appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Great to see you.
One of the 100 greatest athletes of all time. Now we'll come back to the next guy. Who do we want next?
Lee? Look at this, Lee Seidman, ladies and gentlemen.
Lee Seidman, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, I want everybody to know that between Dan and Lee and everybody here, that if there were some issue, that's right. If there were some issue or some catastrophe, AEG would be half the company it is today because everybody's up here. Michael Roth, I don't know if you now see, but he's
caused the disaster.
Caused a disaster. Michael Roth, you didn't see his good side right there. He's just bending over, but that's okay. I've seen Michael Roth bend over a lot recently, ladies and gentlemen. That's the bottom line.
He does that. That's one of the reasons why he was hired.
Perfect. Lee runs the Staples Center and runs, basically all the venues at AEG. But what's the title?
I'm president of Staples Center, Microsoft Theater, and LA Live. Everything that you see around us and behind us, except for the hotels. I'm not a hotel guy.
But he's also a definitive facility industry guy, and he's been on top of the facility industry for 60, 70 years.
I'd say 29.
29.
You've been 60, 70 years in the broadcasting era, so I'll catch up with you, but not yet.
All right. Name all the events that have been held at the Staples Center in 30 seconds. Go.
In 30 seconds, there have been every event that you could have ever imagined that's been held at Staples Center. We've hosted the biggest, the best, and that's why we designed this building this way, as well as the LA Live campus behind us.
Very well done. What's the one event so you've had the Democratic Convention, you've had the Lakers, the Clippers, the Grammys, all of that. What's the one event that got away that you want to get?
There really hasn't been one event that's actually got away. We've been fortunate enough. This is our 4th All-Star game that we're hosting. Next year we'll host our 5th All-Star game. The interesting thing is there's only one building that I know of, and you'll have to fact check me here. The Chicago Stadium back in '73 and '74 hosted back-to-back NBA, NHL, and in '76 the Philadelphia Spectrum hosted both of them. So now you fast forward, and we're, I believe, the first modern-era building to host the NHL and the NBA in back-to-back years.
Interesting. So we do know that Chicago Stadium had the All-Star game in 48, 61, 74. They had it 3 times, but that's pretty good. But nowhere near the diversity of this building. Designed for probably state-of-the-art in the arena business, I can say that. 16 years ago, $407 million, got your money's worth?
Oh, yes, we did. And the good thing about this is we have an ownership group led by Mr. Anschutz and Dan Beckerman that allow us to pour money back into this building to keep it refreshed. This building is now going into its 18th year, as you mentioned, and a lot of buildings of this size and this nature, after 20, look to do something new. We've been fortunate enough that every year we poured funds back into it to keep it refreshed, to keep it looking great, and to keep it cutting edge from a technology standpoint.
Give us some examples of the, it says in a lot of the PR stuff, $30 million of renovations, but give us some of these.
The last couple of years. What we did the last couple of years in our renovation program was a 3-year start. We redid Team LA. We added our DraftKings Fantasy Sports Bar and Lounge. We just finished 14 concession stands that we refreshed. And this past summer, without shutting the building down, we refreshed and reconcepted 170 suites, the 154 permanent suites that are leased out on an annual basis, and our 16 event suites that we themed them, a Venice theme, a Hollywood theme, an LA sports theme, a Grammy Museum theme.
So we hear the music in the background, Chick Hearn Plaza, LA Live. The synergies are first class and above anything else in the world, frankly. But give us some examples of the synergies and the compatibilities between the retail, the hotel space, and the Staples Center.
Well, I think the first thing you have to understand is the minute you get downtown and the minute you get to LA Live, you no longer need wheels. By that I mean a car, because we've got 19 restaurants here. We've got 2 hotels on property, 2 hotels right across the street. We have the Microsoft Theater that can host an event for 7,100 people, like we did for the NHL 100. We've got the Conga Room that hosts 1,000 people. We've got Club Novo. It's a 2,300-seat music hall. We've got 19 restaurants. Then, if that's not enough, we've got a 14-screen Regal Cineplex and a Lucky Strike bowling alley here as well.
Lee doesn't know the numbers, by the way. This is really difficult because these are not something that he can pull up. He's the best. Tell us exactly, as much as you can, how the whole balance sheets work. We can't ask you to kind of get in the business, and Dan won't get the details of it, but Staples Center is a linchpin, and a lot of the events are related to and brought into the Staples Center, but it's access to all of the AEG worldwide events. How's it all work?
The whole Staples Center back in 1999, I believe, and Dan can attest to this later, started the whole revitalization of downtown Los Angeles. And if you drive around and you look around this town now, there are probably about 10 to 12 cranes that are up with future construction, with hotels and condos and apartment complexes. But everything started with Staples Center. Due to the success of Staples Center and our tenants that play in this building and the artists that came here, the rest of LA Live was developed. Because of this campus, we now have the ability to have synergies with our sister properties, not only in the United States, but internationally as well with the O2. So we have a chance to do things that take them across the pond and bring them back here as well.
Everybody talking about fan amenities. You've had over 50 million fans who've come into this building, right? 50 million, is that the number?
There's about 3.5 to 4 million a year that go through our doors just in this building alone. Across the street, we do probably 15 million visitors a year.
And you know that the industry buzzword is decouching. Everybody now is trying to figure out how to get people off the couches and into the building. How important and what specifically are you doing to maximize fan amenities?
Well, we work with our teams. We work with the Clippers, we work with the Lakers and the Kings and the Sparks to give them the technology that they need. The Wi-Fi, the beacons in and around the building, the updated scoreboard, the updated sound system here. We continually pour money into the building to make those things viable and make those things current for those teams to actually design their production, design their game entertainment. We help them with everything that they want to do. We vet everything they want to do, and we're side by side with all 4 teams.
Is the building getting old? It is 17 years. You talked about the money you put into renovation, but you don't have a public-private partnership in a way. Of course you do as far as public support. But do you ever wake up and say, look at all those buildings where there's 100% public money here, and we don't have any public money to work with. Man, I wish we were like X.
Actually, no, because we've got a great ownership group who understand that you don't build a $400 million building and not maintain it and keep it up and always add new technology and new things to keep it refreshed. I mean, we're in the entertainment capital of the world, Los Angeles. We're downtown. We need to have a fresh building. And the men and women who work here do a great job in maintaining it. And you'd be hard-pressed to walk this building today and say, oh my gosh, it's 17, 18 years old. And we've had other people that have walked the building this past week and are amazed at how good it looks for the amount of events we do a year, which is close to 240, depending on playoffs, and the amount of people that come through our doors on a nightly basis.
Finally, what's the next big, special, secret event or project that you're doing here that you can't announce but you want to scoop for me?
Well, you know what? Everybody knows what we do here. I mean, we've hosted the Grammys 17 times. We're going to come up and host that again. We've got the NBA All-Star Game coming. We have the NCAA Western Regional coming in 2018. We are working with our partners, LA Sports and Entertainment Commission and Kathy Schlossman's group, and the Los Angeles Rams to bid on 23, 24, 25 Final Four, which would be actually hosted in the new stadium in Inglewood, but LA Live and the campus would be the host hotel.
Perfect synergy. By the way, I'm getting my tickets now because when you guys do something, you don't fail. Largely because of you, but also because of our next guy. So thank you, my friend.
You're welcome.
Please
enjoy the game today.
Thank you. All right, Michael, next victim.
There are no victims with Rick Horrow.
We start at the kind of middle level, ladies and gentlemen, with one of the 100 best athletes of all time. Then we go to a building operator. Then we go to the guy that has the entire entertainment world at his fingertips, and he runs by far the best, biggest worldwide entertainment conglomerate in the world. IMG aside, AEG, Dan Becker.
Thank you very much. You're very kind. I love it. I love it.
How was that?
You're all over the map this morning. You got a little bit something for everyone.
All right, well, here's the deal. So he had the 30-second test. You have to name every property AEG owns in 30 seconds. Go.
I quit. I can't do it. I can't do it. But we're in downtown LA, so I'll go with
be generic.
Staples Center, LA Live, the JW and the Ritz, and the Convention Center. So that's the focus of this weekend. That's for sure.
Well, clearly focus of this weekend, but also give us seriously kind of the elevator speech of the global reach of AEG.
Well, we're a worldwide company. We have venues and entertainment districts and sports teams and our live music company that span every part of the globe. So from our AEG Live with our music division, they're everywhere from Shanghai to Los Angeles and beyond. Our venues, we have over 125 venues all over the world that we either own, operate, or manage in every country on every continent. And our sports properties, obviously, that we're here for All-Star Weekend, we have over a dozen teams in various sports all over the world. And we bring them all together, and that's what we try to do from a business standpoint. Is we like to have all these pillars of our companies working together. We like to have everything integrated. Our venues, our real estate, our entertainment districts, a really big part of our company that's even growing more and more every day. Like LA Live, we have those kind of districts all over the world, and we're building more.
Now, Dan, remembering that Reuters is we're Reuters, and with the NBC kind of combination, this is going across the world as well. So generally, is it easier or harder to do global business today than it was 5-10 years ago?
I think it's easier today. There are still some areas of the globe that are challenging to work with, and having partnerships is important, and understanding how to do business in each country is extremely important. And we have great local partners throughout the world, whether we're in Europe or whether we're in China, or as we're looking to grow further into Asia. We have a great project in Germany that's being developed right now, not unlike what we have here at LA Live with an arena which has been open for a few years, and we have an entertainment district under construction in Berlin, which is a beautiful project that's going to be opening in 2018. So we're continuing this, and as we grow internationally, we like to seek partners that can help us grow. And we need to understand the communities where we do business, and that's important to us. And it started in LA because that's our home, but it's important for us to really understand the communities and be engaged.
I suspect I'm setting myself up for an answer that says three-way tie. But if you had a choice, what's the most important components of the building? Is it the or of your entities? Is it the franchises? Is it the buildings? Or is it the events?
Well, you're right. They all need to be there, and really they are the three legs of the stool. You need to have the venues, you need to have the real estate, and you need to have the content, whether it's music content or sports content. But if you look at our company and where we have our assets concentrated, in our heart, we're a real estate company because the venues and the real estate that surround it are really the anchor. But the content is what's critical to feed that and to make it special, like what we have here today.
And when you look at the real estate, let's get back to LA just for a minute. Sure. Studies have talked about the relative value of the Kings. $99 million from the sport, $220 million. Again, who knows what these numbers really mean, but the market itself, the 13 million people in LA, $194 million the Staples Center, so there's a real estate aspect, and 86 million is brand valuation. So how important is the brand of AEG? It's become a lot bigger, a lot better.
It has, and I know we're not a consumer brand necessarily, but people in the industry, when we talk, I think that's really what our focus is. And for venue owners and developers and team owners, that brand is really important to us. But what's more important to us are the brands of our properties. You know, we don't take the AEG name and try to splash it all over the world. What's important is our teams, the LA Kings. That's an important brand. That's a brand that has meaning. Coachella Music Festival, that is a brand that has meaning. Staples Center, that's an important brand. The O2 in London, those are very important brands. And I think people have come to, hopefully consumers and people in the business community have come to understand, that's an AEG property. And there's certain expectations that they have about the quality and the content and the service and the amenities that they're going to get. And hopefully that's where the AEG brand can benefit from the brands that we have under us.
Well, and then taking the Kings one step further relative inside the NHL. Forbes isn't a be-all and end-all, ladies and gentlemen, but here's a point of reference. So their latest value is $600 million. Kings, 9th of a 31 team league, 30-31, 3% up from last year, and $150 million in revenue, meaning it's increasing. So without agreeing or disagreeing with those numbers, the All-Star bump, is it really important to brand value as well? Is it more on-ice performance? How important is the All-Star game, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
I think the All-Star game is great. It adds, we had the All-Star game here back in 2002, and I think what it does is it adds a lot to the profile of the team and the attention and everybody that's going to be watching all over the world. I think it makes it top of mind for people. But I think when you talk about franchise values, or earlier we were talking about our entertainment assets and our real estate, I think the most important thing that we have going for us, and which is really the first thing we think about when we get involved either with an acquisition or a project, is the market where that's going to be. And we can't do these types of projects everywhere. And being in a major metropolitan market, being not just picking the right cities, but picking the right locations within those cities. So being in London, being in downtown Los Angeles, being in downtown Berlin, or in Shanghai, or on the Strip in Las Vegas, when we identify these projects, you can't do these everywhere. So they're very capital intensive, as you know, and you can't do these projects anywhere. You've got to be very selective. So back to the Kings valuation, I think the biggest component of that, obviously, we have great fans, we have a fantastic brand, we've had 2 Stanley Cup championships. But being in Los Angeles, I think, is probably the number one thing that drives that value.
Will LA get the 2024 Olympics, and is it important to you?
I hope they do get the 2024 Olympics. I think that they have an extremely compelling bid. I think LA 24 has put together a great bid package, and we're proud to be part of it. We'll be, if LA is picked, we'll be the host of many events, both here in downtown Los Angeles and at StubHub Center in Carson, just a little bit 15 minutes south of here. So there'll be a number of events at Staples Center, the Microsoft Theater, the LA Convention Center, and all of the venues at StubHub Center. I think they have a great bid, and I really hope they get it.
And Lee was mentioning the leverage, the synergies, the relationships at Inglewood as well. I assume that you will get along with the Rams folks and the Chargers folks, and all those people that are building that facility.
Yeah, we're neighbors here. And speaking of the Chargers, we recently announced that until the new stadium in Inglewood is completed, the Chargers are actually going to be playing their games at StubHub Center, our MLS stadium. So we have a great relationship with the Chargers, and we're looking forward to having them. But yeah, I think you'll see if Los Angeles gets this bid, I think you're going to see everybody activated throughout LA area.
And by the way, rippling in the industry is this 30,000 seat creates a tough ticket. Even if they're mediocre, which probably looks like the way it's going to be a really tough ticket and a good ticket. And the way you guys sell tickets is going to be a great fan experience too.
I think that's really what the Chargers wanted to do, and I give them a lot of credit for wanting to really do something unique and innovative and differentiate themselves in the market. And I think it is going to be a hot ticket, and I think that experiencing NFL football in that intimate environment is going to be something that people are going to remember forever.
You mentioned fans, obviously very important. Have you done a calculation of the total number of fans that have been in AEG's facility since inception?
Well, I think it's kind of like McDonald's, billions and billions served. I know we actually do track it sort of on an annual basis, but if I think back to the 20 years that I've been here, it is billions and billions.
I understand that the PR folks, you were going to have a little turnstile that would show the number of fans. You'd have to kill it, right? That would be a bad idea.
Busy. That thing would be going night and day.
Well, as the guy who has the experience of the importance of making sure that decouching is no longer a term that affects the industry, where is the future of the dilemma or the dichotomy between great in-arena, in-facility experience and watching it on mobile devices and television?
I think they complement each other, and we're constantly looking for ways to enhance the in-venue experience using technology as a primary driver of doing that. But I'm a believer that as great as the in-home experience is, or watching it on your mobile device, I believe that there's nothing that can compete with the live experience and being there in person. And I know that there are people like the HD TVs are fantastic and the screens are getting larger, and I enjoy watching our away games on TV. But to me, there's no substitute for being there in person. And I think what people and fans and younger fans in particular really want is they want to have those experiences. They collect experiences the way I used to collect ticket stubs and baseball cards. But people want to be engaged in something, and I think that we're seeing that, and we're seeing it. If you look around here, it's people want to be involved and be engaged.
The StubHub relationship seems to maximize that as well, because you can hear that line out of their corporate mantra is maximizing experiences.
Absolutely, and that's a perfect example. You look at how much traffic on StubHub and how many people are transacting their tickets on StubHub. It is a surprisingly large number of people who will come to a Kings game and get their tickets on StubHub. So those are people who are really active.
The industry used to rebel against that and think it was competitive, and that's the old scalpers and going to jail if you're whispering too loud. And now I know StubHub just did a deal with the Sixers where they're actually selling for them. Is that a trend? Will that happen in the future?
I think they're going to continue to grow. I think it'll manifest itself differently. I think in some cases they may do a very comprehensive relationship like they have with the Sixers. I think in other instances they may do marketing relationships. But I think it's very much a legitimized business, and we have a great partnership with StubHub. And what we thought was important is that we integrate them, because there's a couple of important things that we can do to help StubHub. One of them is authenticating their tickets. And when you buy a ticket through StubHub, you know that if you're partnered at an AEG venue, that's going to be a good ticket and it's not counterfeit. So I think that's important. And what we get in exchange for that is all of their data, because all of those people who transact on StubHub, we otherwise don't know who they are in our building. I mean, if you think about the old days, somebody who bought their ticket through a broker, they come into your building, you don't know who they are. We may have sold it to someone and we know who that person is, but they're not actually the one in the venue. So I think having that exchange with them and being able to get that customer data enables us to engage with the fan that's actually here. So I think StubHub is innovative in that way.
Without turning this into a StubHub Alliance commercial, how much of that is transferable worldwide? I mean, do you have the ability?
I think a lot of it is, and I think technology will enable that. If you look at now how tickets get transferred, if I have a ticket for the game tonight, I'm not just handing you a ticket, I'm going to be sending you a digital ticket, and you'll be redeeming that, and then we now know who you are.
Yeah.
So now we can create a relationship with you. So I think technology is going to enable the growth and the proliferation of that throughout the world.
You look at the world today, and you realize how important AEG is in the global nature of the world today. Predict for us as we wrap this up, because we now have the king of the NHL who just approached. So
you're working your way up. You had the building manager. Now it's going to be.
But athletically too, we went and we go the other way. We went from one of the top 100 players in the universe, and then we have the commissioner getting ready to deal with the other way.
You're having a good morning.
My sense is he may head out of here in a second if I don't shut up and start dealing with things the way they should. Good deal. So finally, what happens to AEG Magic Crystal Ball 5 years from now? what happens?
I think we're going to continue to grow. We're always identifying new projects. We have a number of projects under construction right now all over the world, and we're looking for more. So I think you're going to see continued investment, continued growth, and continued technological innovation.
Awesome. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Do it again.
The granddaddy of them all.
Sir?
Let's go. You're up. Go to the next thing. So.
Got to go to the next thing.
You got 5 minutes.
Wow. How's that, ladies and gentlemen? Wasn't that really good? The commissioner of the NHL, Gary Bettman, who has been a friend, but friends don't tell friends they've only got 5 minutes. Well, now it's 4.5.
Well,
Right.
you're wasting time.
All right, here we go.
You're not the only interview I have today.
Shocking. I've used the word, let's start this way, I've used the word comfortable with your job since you're the longest standing commissioner. You never liked that word. Predictable, stable, consistent, there's been a rhythm. Are those better?
A little bit, but I don't understand why you feel the need to have a one-word soundbite as a characterization. The fact is, we're in a position where we've never been stronger, and the opportunity has never been greater. And so, people who are comfortable don't like to seize opportunities. It's not about stability; it's about how we continue to grow.
Very well done. A bit of advice, since this is a business show, to business people who want to lead their organizations for 26 years and be good at it, what would the advice be?
You need to have a vision. You need to work hard. You need to make sure your people, your team understands your vision, buys into it, and you need to empower them to be the best they can be.
You just led a tremendous weekend, which includes the 100th year celebration of a successful business. What's most important indicator of success to you? Franchise values, revenues, profits, footprint across North America, or a combination?
Why do you like to boil things down to one element?
Because I only have 5 minutes. I'm sorry.
Life and business
I'm
isn't
sorry.
that simple. The fact is, all of those criteria and measures are important. And most important, perhaps, is fan engagement. And you can break that down into a whole host of subcategories as well. In the final analysis, you need to have strong, healthy franchises. You need to have a game that's competitive and that is compelling and entertaining. You need to have great players, great people for our fans to connect with, and you need to have a great fan base.
Labor peace is hard-earned, and there's healthy respect for your relationship with the Players Union now. The biggest key to negotiating success, preparation, leverage, etc. Don't want to boil it down, maybe. Go ahead, tell us why. What?
You need to have a mutual understanding of each side's goals and objectives. And if, in fact, those goals and objectives overlap to any extent, it's inexcusable if you can't make a deal. But if the circles don't touch, you've got to try and persuade the other side as to why your agenda, your vision is the right one.
You look at the demographics of this Sunbelt city team all-star game, and you realize that USA Hockey, I guess, has now 365,000 in their youth program, and D1, ASU, college programs, et cetera, et cetera. How important is growing the game in the U.S. through the youth level?
Well, growing the game everywhere is important at all levels, particularly the grassroots levels. And it's not just about fans, it's also about having great young prospects come into the league as the next generation of players. You talk about the so-called Sun Belt. I mean, look at the first pick in the draft at the last draft, Austin Matthews from Scottsdale, Arizona, who would tell you if as a 4-year-old he wasn't taken, I think, by his uncle to a Coyotes game, he probably never would have played hockey. What's also interesting is California's growth has been phenomenal. I think California, there's the 6th or 7th most number of registered young players in our game. When the Kings got here, maybe 2,000 were registered, and now they're approaching 30,000 for the state of California. And that's a testament to the Kings, the Ducks, and the Sharks.
All-star games in the future.
Yes, we'll have some.
You will. And at the same time, every year? Cut. The balance between...
You laugh at your own joke.
I
That's
do.
Good too.
Well, only if I get laughter from you first. All-star games, the long-term choices, Canada, Sun Belt, Original Six.
Yes.
yes to all.
Yeah,
Boston, will Boston get one in the future?
Boston wants it. We recently had an outdoor game in Boston. Boston's had an all-star game since they've been in the new building. All our events have become so popular. Our fans, our clubs, the cities we play in all want them, and that's great.
Olympic hockey, you're not going to tell me whether you're going to go to the Olympics, are you?
No.
Okay.
There's nothing new in that regard.
Just quickly from a business perspective, though, the factors that you will have to ultimately evaluate to decide whether or not to go.
Well, it's incredibly disruptive. What business in the prime of its selling season shuts down for almost 3 weeks? It affects the competitiveness of the league. It affects the schedule, not just for those 3 weeks, but for the rest of the season with compression. We disappear when football and baseball are gone and it's just us and basketball. It's very, very difficult to manage a season with that kind of disruption.
Are there any positives?
Well, there's the worldwide stage that the Olympics provide, except they don't promote NHL hockey. They take the players and run their own tournament, and it's great to have the world's best on best play, but in the final analysis, the restrictions that the IOC imposes are kind of difficult when you're in our situation, particularly since we're the only sports league or sport that has to stop its season to participate, if we participate.
When will you reach the decision?
And there's no deadline from our standpoint. It's really going to be for others to decide.
Okay. Just a couple more. Superstars, salary parity. Superstars are important in the league.
What is salary parity?
Well, salary parity is my shorthand of saying, is it important for you to have players who are making a lot more than other players, or is it important to make sure that most of the players make a lot more money than they're making today? Or is that a labor issue?
Well, first of all, it's important that you have a system in a sports league where all of our teams can afford to be competitive, and that's the system we have, and that's one of the reasons the game is as strong as it is right now. Our competitive balance is extraordinary. How it gets whacked up is a function of the system, and that's something that obviously the Players Association, is focused on tremendously. Obviously, as well, the more talented players should get more money than the less talented players.
Leveling the playing field, Forbes, they're not a be-all and end-all, but just numbers from them. The Rangers at $1.25 billion valuation, and the Carolina Hurricanes at $230. Are you structurally?
That's absurd.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
I'm just telling you what the magazine says.
We just sold an expansion team
for
$500 million.
Right.
I mean, Forbes doesn't have access to our numbers, and their methodology, I would suggest, is somewhat flawed.
Okay. Notwithstanding that, are you satisfied with your structural efforts to level the playing field?
I don't know what level the playing field means. I mean, all of our teams have an opportunity to be competitive, and as I said, we have the best competitive balance in sport. It doesn't matter which team you root for. Your team has a shot, and if you look at our standings, the race to the playoffs is extraordinary, and once the playoffs begin, anything can happen.
Speaking of that $500 million franchise, how excited are you to follow the successes of the Vegas Golden Knights?
I think they're going to do extraordinarily well. That's going to be a terrific market. Bill Foley is going to be a great owner. The fan base has already begun to show itself. They're in a terrific new arena. I think the vital signs are good. And I think being in Las Vegas is going to raise our profile, and that's not a bad thing either.
Frank Brown told me one more question, but now here's a second question, and then we're done. Life after the NHL for you? I keep asking it, and you keep looking at me like, why are you asking that question?
Why are you asking that question? I love what I do. I'm going to keep doing it.
Okay. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Awesome.
You must have a very steady hand.
Yeah. Kimberly Bakshi, our executive producer. Thank you, Frank Brown. Thank you, Commissioner Bettman. Thank you, Michael Roth. So we got everybody we needed to get. But before we sign off, we're going to just walk over here and look at the dynamics of this building. I don't know if I can stand up anymore after an hour of walking, of doing that. So let's take a look at this. We have Chickern Plaza. Is that Chickern Court? Okay. Take that. Michael Roth, who is the PR person extraordinaire of the King Staples Center everywhere. It's Chickern Court. JW Marriott, Ritz-Carlton, Microsoft Theater. Show us,
And that was always the plan when we developed this whole area downtown Los Angeles. Was Staples Center be a great anchor, but having everything here means the events can start much earlier in the day, can last much later into the night, and we attract events, not just sporting events, conventions for the convention center right out our back door here. And we call them, as Lee referred to earlier, it's a no auto event. You get dropped off here on Wednesday or Thursday for a weekend of activities. We have 1,001 rooms in our hotel, and we're hoping to increase that. Downtown has got several new hotels going up because of the increased business. We're in our 1,001 rooms were in the 90% occupied last year. And so when you look at the events that we had, how active our campus has been, Microsoft Theater had the 100 athletes, greatest athletes of all time in the NHL. In Microsoft Square out here, we extended the life of our sheet of ice. We started this about 8 years ago in December, where we put the whole sheet of ice out, and it's become a tradition now in Los Angeles. Come downtown one evening in December and skate outdoors. We never had this before. Otherwise,
how long will you keep this going through the summer or not?
Oh no! I think if you came back tomorrow, you'd see a puddle of water. With 75-degree weather, it's hard to keep the ice frozen, but we can. But with our 19 restaurants and bars and the Grammy Museum, which has had really good attendance this week, because during the afternoon you're looking for something to do. But our fan fest is out here, and a club the Novo Club inside also has had a couple good performers. On our event deck behind the theater last night was the NHL private party with Snoop Dogg and Blink-182. So you can see everything here all works together, and people don't need to come to the event half an hour before the event to get in and get their seat. You can come here 2-3 hours, see the people of the NHL Network broadcasting live, go to one of their restaurants, shoot a puck, or do some of the other fan things. And I'm really pleased to show that Habitat put out some of the small playhouses there.
Yeah.
The Kings this week with the NHL. We built some houses. Those are actually children's playhouses that will go in the backyards of some of the Habitat houses. But we did build the frames for I think half a dozen new Habitat houses as well. So that's what's also great about the All-Star experience is they give back to the community. They don't leave a community the same way it came. But no, we next week there will be a big convention at the convention center that will have a dinner out here, or and we may have a sustainability show at the convention center. Have booths out here. Toyota during the auto show will do test drives in the street. People can walk up the building and see the statues of the greatest performers. It really is it's a city unto itself.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Michael Roth with an unexpected visual tour of what it's like out at Chick-Hearn Plaza and LA Live. And hopefully you get some perspective of what it's like to compete in a 13 million person market and win. It's a combination of Luc Robitaille and the Kings and what he does to pursue excellence. It's also a combination of having an all-star game every once in a while to bump up tickets, but more important than that, thanks to the fans and everybody. It's also the ability to have a relationship through Dan Beckerman, AEG, top down all over the world, and finally, obviously, Gary Bettman. You can tell how excited he is about this building, this team, this franchise, and his Sunbelt strategy. It's working. The NHL seems to be working all the way through. Gary Bettman has been a steward for well over 20 years, and he continues to run it very well. So next, we're on to the Super Bowl. Rick Horrow keeping score. See you next time.